application which is crawling will just give you the components split up, like the app deck store, the graphical representation will be there, right? So from here, the important section that as developers we need to focus is the transactions tab. From the it is going to be interesting from now on. So under the transaction, we will list out all the transactions in your applications. Your just click on the transaction. Yeah. So this transaction, right? We can see what is the average response time of the transaction, the throughput value, and then the total number of requests for this transaction, errors, exceptions reported for this transaction. And for those transactions that are taking more time, we will capture the traces. Okay. So traces is an important part of troubleshooting. Whenever we identify performance issues in your application, traces is what helps you go ahead and identify which method call or which class is causing a problem, and you can fix them. So if you open, for example, this trace is captured on November 7th, 1 p.m. So the response time is around 6 seconds. So we can check why it has taken around 6 seconds for this request to be processed in your application server. So just click on that transaction, the trace. So here you can see all the slowest methods.
Can you, I think should we record this session so it might help you guys to go back if required?
It is already recorded.
Yeah, I started.
I missed that. Thank you.
Okay. So if we see here, we have an async call, and then an API called the HTTP call is made, which is passing around 3000 milliseconds and 2500 milliseconds. So these are the slowest method calls in your application, which has caused the performance spike of around 6000 milliseconds for this transaction. And if you go to the trace details, just click on the trace details. So here you can see a better view of the call summary, right? The calls that are made, the SQL calls, the connections, right? And we will also give you the actual statements that are used for this transaction. Now, if you click on the SQL statements tab, or even you can click on there, yeah. So here you can see the actual SQL query that is being used. So if a SQL query is going to cause a performance issue or a delay in responding to that request, right, that can also be captured. So you can optimize your query for better performance, right? So this is a very integral part of application monitoring, where with the help of traces, you'll be able to easily identify the root cause of the performance issue. So any questions, team, on the traces part? Okay, so let's move on with the next tab, which is database tab, next to the transactions. Yeah. So database will give you the list of all the database operations that are used for this transaction or for this application. And very similar to the transactions, right? For those database operations that are going to take more time, we will give you the traces. Just if you click on the first stored procedure, right? So this stored procedure, you can see what are the database operations used, for which transaction this database operation is used, is listed there. And again, there are no traces because the response time is very less. It's just 190 seconds. So we have set a threshold of 2 seconds or 3 seconds for database traces. So that's why no traces are there. But if you want, you can have a minimal threshold to capture the traces for these database operations as well. Okay. And then the next tab will give you the traces, all the traces that are captured for your application. Okay. So here, when it comes to the application monitoring, in today's world, we are in the microservices architecture, where applications talking to each other. So we need to get a better visibility on how this transaction flows. Say, for example, you make an API call from application 1, and that API call is getting processed in application 2. Okay. So when that specific API call is causing a performance delay, if you have our Site24x7 agent in both the servers, application 1 and application 2, We will give you a tree view, like the entire traces can be tracked from application one itself, so that your developers will get a better